Welcome back to our channel, Soap Opera Aficionados. Today is a spectacular day to dive deep into the latest drama unfolding in Los Angeles. The daytime landscape is shifting, and we are here to unpack every thrilling moment, secret, and betrayal. Sit back, relax, and let us guide you through the intricate web of romance and corporate warfare that keeps us all on the edge of our seats. The coastal sanctuary of Bill Spencer's beach house was supposed to be a safe haven for Melissa Dillon, a place to escape the suffocating pressure of her reality and the swirling chaos of the Forrester and Spencer families. Instead, it has slowly and agonizingly transformed into a psychological prison. The relentless, disguised voice on the other end of the telephone line has finally materialized into a tangible, inescapable nightmare. Today, the veil of anonymity is violently lifted, and the identity of her mysterious stalker is laid bare, sending catastrophic shockwaves through her already fragile and fractured existence. This is not a random stranger, nor is it a fleeting nuisance that can be easily blocked, ignored, and forgotten. This is a terrifying ghost from her past, a figure whose very presence proves that the dark secrets she thought she had successfully buried are still very much alive, breathing, and hunting her down. The realization that her past has tracked her down to her current sanctuary is enough to paralyze her with a profound, suffocating fear that will dictate her every move for the rest of the week. As the visceral terror of the jump scare subsides and the chilling reality of her situation sets in, Melissa Dillon finds herself utterly cornered in a scenario that demands an impossible, soul-crushing choice. The stalker is not merely here to torment her for sadistic sport. There's a highly sinister, transactional nature to this confrontation. A dark quid pro quo dynamic rapidly emerges, forcing the vulnerable Forrester Creations receptionist to navigate a treacherous, high-stakes negotiation just to survive the day. Dillon's paralyzing fear of homelessness, a deep-seated trauma that R.J. Forrester has already recognized and actively considered exploiting for his own gain, makes her uniquely and tragically vulnerable to this brand of extortion. She is a woman standing on the absolute edge of a precipice, staring down into the abyss of her own history, realizing that the life she has tried to build in Los Angeles is built on a foundation of sand. The emotional toll of this encounter is staggering, leaving her grappling with the terrifying understanding that she can never truly outrun the shadows of her previous life, no matter how far she runs or who she aligns herself with. Just when a wall seemed to be completely closing in on Melissa Dillon, another unexpected and desperate force enters the fray, offering a lifeline that is heavily laced with its own brand of toxic unpredictability. Daphne Rose Walton, driven to the absolute brink of her sanity by the agonizing, silent pain of severe infertility, presents Dillon with an intriguing yet fundamentally chaotic proposition. Daphne's desperation is palpable and heart-wrenching. Her inability to conceive a child with Carter Walton has fractured her spirit, pushing her into a dark psychological space where she is willing to make decisions and alliances she might otherwise never consider. The offer she extends to Dillon is not born of pure altruism or friendship, but rather a complex, messy web of mutual need, deep grief, and calculated risk. For Dillon, who is desperately seeking any possible escape route from the stalker's terrifying grasp, Daphne's proposal appears as the only visible door out of her current nightmare. Yet, stepping through that door means plunging headfirst into a vortex of unpredictability, inextricably tying her fate to a woman whose emotional stability is currently hanging by the thinnest of threads. The juxtaposition of these two immense, crushing pressures places Melissa Dillon in the crucible of ultimate internal conflict. On one side, she has the inescapable, suffocating gravity of her past, embodied by a stalker demanding strict compliance through fear, intimidation, and blackmail. On the other side, she has Daphne's life-altering offer, a path that promises immediate salvation from her stalker but guarantees long-term chaos and an unwanted future. Dylan's internal monologue is a frantic, deafening symphony of survival instincts. Can she possibly trust Daphne, whose own judgment is heavily clouded by profound grief and a desperate need for control? Can she afford to reject the offer when the alternative is surrendering her entire life to the ghost from her past? The emotional flow of Dylan's narrative is a masterclass in psychological suspense, painting a vivid, harrowing picture of a woman entirely stripped of her agency, forced to navigate a dark labyrinth of bad choices where every turn leads to a different, devastating kind of ruin. The beach house, once a symbol of her salvation and a gift from Will Spencer, is now the undisputed epicenter of her destruction. Meanwhile, miles away from the coastal dread and psychological warfare, an entirely different kind of battle is brewing in the gleaming, opulent, and highly publicized halls of Katie Logan's brand-new fashion boutique. Liam Spencer, shedding his usual demeanor of romantic indecision, steps through the pristine glass doors, bringing with him a calculated strategic solution that threatens to completely upend the entire Los Angeles fashion industry. The boutique itself is a monument to Katie's relentless ambition and her recent, monumental success alongside the ruthless Bill Spencer. It is a space bathed in the golden glow of global billboard triumphs and financial victory, yet harbors a critical, existential vulnerability, the desperate, immediate need for a visionary designer to replace the stolen genius of Eric Forster. Liam steps into the shoes of a ruthless corporate strategist, his arrival marking a pivotal turning point. He is not merely paying a friendly visit to his former mother-in-law. He is executing a calculated maneuver designed to fundamentally and irrevocably shift the balance of power between the rising, aggressive Logan brand and the established, legacy-driven titan Forster Creations. Liam's proposal to Katie is nothing short of revolutionary, striking directly at the very heart of the Forster Empire's current vulnerabilities. He keenly sees the deep fractures within Forster Creations, specifically the blatant marginalization and disrespect of Hope Logan Spencer by the dictatorial Steffi Forster Finnegan, and recognizes a golden, unmissable opportunity to capitalize on that internal chaos. Liam's advice to Katie is sharp, highly focused, and incredibly dangerous for anyone bearing the Forster name. He is actively advocating for a corporate coup, suggesting moves that will not only solve Katie's immediate design crisis, but also position the Logan brand as an existential, unstoppable threat to Ridge and Steffi's legacy. The imagery of Liam standing amidst the luxurious fabrics and sleek, modern architecture of the Logan boutique, coolly mapping out a war strategy, highlights a fascinating, darker evolution in his character. He is no longer just a pawn bouncing between women. He is actively rearranging the pieces on the corporate chessboard, orchestrating a massive power shift that will explode into a full-blown, scorched-earth corporate war throughout the remainder of the week. However, the meteoric ascent of the Logan brand comes at a devastating, irreversible familial cost, a tragedy observed most acutely and painfully through the heartbroken eyes of Donna Logan. While Katie revels in the intoxicating rush of business triumph and the thrill of sticking it to the Foresters, Donna serves as the tragic, silent observer of a legendary sisterhood tearing itself apart at the seams. When Katie explicitly reveals her audacious, aggressive plan to actively poach Hope from Forster Creations, Donna is struck by a profound sense of shock, panic, and deep sorrow. She desperately pleads with her sister, her voice echoing with raw emotion through the opulent halls of the Logan estate, begging Katie to abandon this aggressive pursuit. Donna understands, with terrifying, prophetic clarity, that bringing Hope into the Logan brand will not just be a savvy business transaction. It will be a definitive declaration of war that will irrevocably shatter the delicate, hard-won peace within their family. The emotional resonance of Donna's fear is palpable, a desperate, tear-filled cry to preserve the sacred bonds of blood over the fleeting allure of corporate power and revenge. Donna's internal conflict is perhaps the most poignant and tragic of all the Logans currently engaged in this battle. She has spent her entire adult life fiercely protecting her sisters, acting as the emotional glue and the eternal optimist that holds Brooke and Katie together through decades of bitter betrayals, shared tragedies, and triumphant victories. Now, she watches in absolute horror as Katie's unbridled ambition and Brooke's inevitable, fierce retaliation threaten to destroy everything she holds dear. Donna feels entirely isolated in her grief, feeling as though she is the only one who truly recognizes that the ultimate cost of this new fashion empire is the very soul of their family. The dramatic atmosphere within the Logan mansion is thick with unspoken resentments, historical grievances, and an overwhelming sense of impending doom. Every time Donna looks at Katie, she sees a woman entirely consumed by the need to prove herself, completely blind to the massive collateral damage she is causing to the people who love her most. Donna's desperate pleas are not just a disagreement over business ethics. They're a frantic, heartbreaking attempt to pull her family back from the edge of an emotional cliff from which they may never return. Amidst this rapidly escalating tension and familial fracturing, Brooke Logan Forster attempts to navigate the highly treacherous waters of her relationship with Katie. Recognizing the deep, lingering emotional wounds she inflicted by failing to support Katie's initial, controversial use of Eric Forster's designs, Brooke decides to extend a highly calculated olive branch. The internal conflict within Brooke is incredibly complex and deeply rooted in her own history. She remains steadfast in her righteous, unwavering belief that stealing Eric's intellectual property is morally bankrupt and disrespectful to the man she loves, yet she cannot ignore the profound, visible pain her disapproval has caused her younger sister. The olive branch she offers is fraught with heavy conditions, a delicate and highly dangerous attempt to make peace without compromising her own strict ethical boundaries regarding Forster creations. Brooke approaches Katie with a heavy heart and a cautious demeanor, hoping to bridge the rapidly widening chasm between them. But the atmosphere between the sisters is crackling with unresolved anger, defensive posturing, and years of competitive baggage. Will Katie accept this conditional surrender, or will she view it as just another patronizing attempt by her older sister to control her narrative and dictate her success? While Brooke attempts to delicately mend fences with Katie, her daughter, Hope Logan Spencer, is undergoing a radical, terrifying, and awe-inspiring transformation of her own. Hope has finally reached her absolute, undeniable breaking point with Steffi Forster Finnegan. The repeated, dismissive shelving of the hope for the future line in favor of Eric's couture has systematically stripped Hope of her endless patience, her company loyalty, and her long-standing willingness to play the role of the accommodating victim. The confrontation that erupts between Hope, Steffi, and Ridge is a masterclass in dramatic tension and long-overdue catharsis. Hope no longer pleads for her line or asks for permission. She demands respect, explicitly and furiously accusing Steffi of intentional, malicious stalling designed to humiliate her. The fire burning in Hope's eyes is a new, highly dangerous element in the Forster dynamic. She is a woman who has dedicated her entire professional life to building a brand, only to watch it be casually and cruelly tossed aside by a dictatorial co-CEO who views her as inferior. This is the exact moment Hope sheds her angelic, passive persona and fully embraces the ruthlessness required to survive and conquer in this cutthroat industry. Fueled by this newfound, intoxicating fury and the strategic whispers of Liam, Hope turns her attention to her mother, offering career advice that borders on a full-scale declaration of war against the Forster family. Hope aggressively pushes Brooke to fight for what she truly deserves, explicitly directing her mother to target the highly coveted co-CEO seat currently occupied by Steffi. This is a monumental, earth-shattering shift in Hope's character motivation and her overall worldview. She is no longer just fighting a defensive battle for her own fashion line. She is actively orchestrating a broader, devastating rebellion, weaponizing her mother to dismantle Steffi's authority from the top down. Brooke, initially hesitant and focused on peace, finds herself rapidly intoxicated by Hope's fierce advocacy and undeniable logic. The synergy between mother and daughter is a formidable, terrifying force, transforming Brooke from a reluctant peacemaker into a highly motivated, aggressive corporate warrior ready to reclaim her throne. The imagery of Hope standing firmly behind Brooke, fueling her ambition and mapping out strategies of conquest, sets the stage for a brutal, unforgiving, and deeply personal battle for the very soul of Forster Creations. As the drums of corporate war beat louder and the battle lines are drawn in permanent ink, Carter Walton steps into the luxurious Forster executive office, carrying the incredibly heavy burden of foresight and legal reality. Carter, usually the steadfast legal counsel and the calm voice of reason amidst the family's endless chaos, acts as a grim prophet of doom in this unfolding tragedy. He sits down with Ridge and Steffi, his demeanor grave, unyielding, and completely stripped of his usual deference, to deliver a stark, uncompromising warning about the catastrophic consequences of their recent executive decisions. Carter clearly sees the writing on the wall, the severe alienation of Hope, the rapid, unchecked rise of the rival Logan brand, and the internal fracturing of their top talent. He explicitly and forcefully reminds his superiors that pushing Hope aside with such blatant disrespect will not just cause a temporary PR ripple. It will create a massive tidal wave that could permanently sink the entire company. The dramatic atmosphere in the mahogany-paneled room is suffocating as Carter lays out the grim, undeniable reality that their unchecked hubris is rapidly paving the way for their own spectacular destruction. Despite Carter's passionate, legally sound, and entirely logical pleas, his dire warnings fall on completely deaf ears. Steffi Forster, entirely consumed by her own authority and deeply convinced of the absolute righteousness of her corporate vision, arrogantly dismisses Carter's concerns as an overreaction. Her condescending attitude toward Hope and her unwavering, blind belief that Forster Creations can easily survive and thrive without the massive revenue of the HFDF line highlight a fatal, tragic flaw in her leadership. Ridge, historically passive and avoidant when it comes to the intricate, messy details of corporate management and interpersonal conflict, predictably defers to his daughter, willfully ignoring the glaring, flashing signs of an impending talent exodus. The tragic irony of the situation is palpable and deeply frustrating. Carter, the man whose entire job is to orchestrate the legal and structural protection of the company, is entirely powerless to stop its stubborn leaders from driving it directly off a cliff. The executive's arrogant refusal to heed his warning cements their path toward a devastating reckoning, ensuring that the impending fallout will be entirely of their own making. While the corporate titans clash violently in the boardroom, a more intimate, psychological, and equally dangerous drama unfolds involving the younger generation. R.J. Forster, deeply entangled in the messy, emotionally volatile love quadrangle with Electra, Will, and Melissa Dillon, steps up to make a solemn, highly charged promise. He vows to protect Electra from an unseen threat, positioning himself as her ultimate guardian and savior. However, RJ's motivations are far from pure, and his actions are draped in shadows. His protective stance is heavily laced with a sinister undercurrent of manipulation, deep-seated jealousy, and a desperate need for control. RJ has already demonstrated a chilling willingness to ruthlessly exploit the vulnerabilities of others, particularly Dylan's paralyzing fear of homelessness, to achieve his own romantic and territorial goals. By promising to protect Electra, RJ is not just shielding her from harm. He is actively binding her to him, using fear, manufactured loyalty, and emotional dependency as calculated tools to cement his place in her heart and permanently edge out his rival, Will Spencer. Electra Forster finds herself caught directly in the dead center of this emotional maelstrom, incredibly vulnerable, exhausted, and overwhelmingly conflicted. The recent, shattering revelation of her Aunt Ivy's calculated sabotage has left her deeply questioning who she can actually trust in this family. making RJ's sudden emergence as a fierce, unwavering protector incredibly seductive and difficult to resist. Yet, she is still deeply, painfully torn between the shattered, unresolved remains of her romance with Will and the passionate, albeit highly manipulative and intense, connection she shares with RJ. Electra's internal conflict is a delicate, dangerous dance between her primal desire for safety and her genuine search for authentic, unmanipulated love. As RJ wraps his protective, yet suffocating, arms around her, the audience is left to wonder if she is finally finding a true sanctuary or walking willingly, with her eyes wide open, into a beautifully gilded cage designed by a master manipulator. The dramatic tension of her impending choice will undoubtedly ripple through the entire Forster family, adding yet another layer of explosive, unpredictable conflict to a week that is already bursting at the seams. As Monday unfolds into the rest of the week, the violent collision of these disparate, highly charged storylines creates a symphony of chaos that will permanently define the landscape of Los Angeles for months to come. From the terrifying, paralyzing revelation of Melissa Dillon's stalker to the calculated, ruthless corporate espionage orchestrated by Liam Spencer, every single character is being pushed far beyond their absolute limits. The emotional flow of the narrative transitions seamlessly from paralyzing, cold fear to unbridled, fiery ambition, from the desperate, tearful pleas of Donna Logan to the righteous, unstoppable fury of Hope Spencer. The imagery of Los Angeles, with its sun-drenched, idyllic beaches and its towering, cold glass skyscrapers, serves as the perfect, starkly contrasting backdrop for the dark, messy internal conflicts tearing these legacy families apart. The stage is perfectly set, the players are locked in their positions, and the catastrophic consequences of their actions are now entirely unavoidable. Ultimately, this week on The Bold and the Beautiful is a profound, unflinching exploration of consequence, ambition, and the inescapable, haunting nature of the past. Whether it is Dillon facing the literal, physical manifestation of her buried secrets, Katie reaping the bitter familial fallout of her stolen, unearned success, or Steffi arrogantly ignoring the prophetic, desperate warnings of her own downfall. No one in this universe is immune to the severe repercussions of their choices. The rich, engaging language of these deeply intertwined narratives invites us to look much deeper into the dark psychological motivations that drive these iconic, flawed characters. As the power dynamics violently shift and old, sacred alliances crumble into dust, one thing remains absolutely, terrifyingly certain. The battle lines have been permanently drawn, the olive branches are burning to ash, and the ultimate war for the soul of both the